Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, welcome. My name is Bobby and this channel is new obviously because I don't have 100 subscribers yet, but I want to have 100 subscribers so bad. That's my goal. So if you're new here, look around. It's a little bit of everything. Actually, I need to start putting my videos in different playlists to make it easier, but a lot of it is going around to antique stores, thrift stores. I love things from the 70s, from the 80s. I love the Lord. So I give a lot of my testimonies, just things that I can speak of that I know of. So yeah, if you're into that type of thing, stick around. So this video is, and I'm doing a few videos today because I did take a day off. I took a 4-day weekend for my birthday just for some mental relaxation, decompressing. Today's the last day, but you know, I'm doing some videos here now and I have so much in my head that I need to talk about. But one of the things, and I want to share testimonies that will help other people. Like the same way when I need, help. And I'm not saying that I go to YouTube for help, because you go to the Lord for help. But sometimes it's good just to hear people who relate to you, who have gone through the same situations, just to hear their testimonies and their stories. It uplifts you. So today, and the reason I'm talking about it is because my birthday did just pass on Saturday. And one person who I do not speak to is my mother. My mother. I don't talk to her. We're no contact. And we've been no contact now for, I would say, 3 years. Maybe close to 3 years. We have got no contact. And the reason why, I just wanted to come out there and talk about it a little bit. It could be for hours. I could take hours and hours with stories and stories, but this is just, a little breakdown, a little reflection, being that my birthday just passed. And me and my mother, I do have a sibling who's 10 years older. We had different fathers. That was from her first marriage, and I didn't really grow up with him. He was a problem child. He had his own things. And looking back as me being a grown person now, more than likely his issues came from lack of, guidance, supervision, all of that, because there was none. And some children can be okay with the no supervision, no guidance. Kids can take it different ways. He turned it into drugs and stealing and things of that nature, where I more was just looking for love. I was just looking for love. My father and my mother, they were in the same house, and again, you look back at things and you don't know it when you're a child, but you know it when you're a grown adult. They basically were just living in the same house for appearances. It was never really like a marriage. I never remember them sleeping in the same room. None of that. My father stayed in the basement, and my father was an alcoholic. So he was really spent his time in the bars, coming home drunk and staying down there. Now, he was a nice person. God bless him. I took care of him when he was elderly up until he passed. And he 100% had the love in his heart for me, for my children. He did anything for them. But as far as, role model, no, he wasn't a role model, because he couldn't be a role model. But I did get that love from him. My mother, on the other hand, she just didn't provide that to me. There was never any, and I believe now I know it's because she's definitely a narcissist. She's one of those people that is not concerned about you. She's not concerned about her grandchildren. She's not concerned really about anybody. It's just me, me, me. The conversation has to turn back to me. Well, me, I'm this. You know, you could tell her you're sick, or, you know, you just went through this or that. Well, I had this. Well, me, you know, not how are you, you know, none of that stuff. And I mean, that's just how she always was. So very young, I turned to, you know, boys, and I was a teenage mom. I had my first daughter at the age of 16. That's a whole nother testimony because yes, it's a, you know, I have a testimony for that because thank you, Jesus. He did look over me, and, you know, everything worked out. But because, and I'm not blaming her because of that, but obviously if you let children do what they want to do with no guidance, no advice, no anything, I mean, then things happen, right? And that's pretty much what it was. There was no teaching me how to cook. Never mind that. She never even cooked. I was pretty much raised, you know, on TV dinners and oodles of noodles. I don't know. So many vegetables and so many things, you know, now that I'm an adult looking back, I never had in my life when I was a child. Like, it's just a whole lot. And of course, you know, I always like to say things could have been so worse. There's children who are neglected, worse, starved, you know, all those things. So definitely things could have been worse, but that's just my story, you know, what happened. And I just kind of, and again, you know, I didn't really think of anything. I knew we didn't have a relationship like that, but, you know, she was my mother, and I really never thought about it or put two and two together to why, even after I was an adult, even when I had to talk to her, have a conversation with her, it was pure anxiety, heart beating, sick, you know, getting migraines when I had to even talk to the lady, because it was just rough. Mentally rough, you know, just to get through a conversation with her. But I tried, you know, through all my adult years, I tried, you know, and I think I even spoke about it a little bit in like a Mother's Day video. But, you know, I tried to be that daughter, you know, buy her the things she needed, send her the groceries she needed, do all those kind of things because she's my mother. And me as a Christian, I wanted to do all those things for her because, you know, I'm the daughter, I'm supposed to do it. But in return, she just never, and I thought maybe that she would, like, maybe the relationship would become better, maybe she would start to show some caring, something, but she didn't. And then what really was the last straw was about 3 years ago when me and my husband, we went to pick her up, to bring her where we were living in Florida so that she could live with us. And, you know, I was fully ready to take that on, to take care of her, to be her caregiver. I was hoping that it would bring some joy to her, maybe change her. Now, now that I'm a member of different groups and different things like that, one thing I've learned to be true just from my own experience and what I see other people say is narcissism will get worse. It doesn't get better. Maybe in some weird situations it does, but normally they become worse when they get older, just because, you know, their health may fade, their looks may fade, and the attitude just really gets bad. And that's really what happened to her. From the minute she stepped in my house, it was tension. My husband tried to do everything to make her comfortable, as far as painting her room, buying her, things for her cat. Her cat came with her. We would buy her favorite foods and cook and, do all these things. And never once did she even act like she was happy to be there. She never showed any concern. Just very, dare I say, evil towards me, especially when there was nobody else around and it was just me and her. Ooh, the way she would speak to me was just horrible. And one quick note is my dog, Mr. Sheldon, which if you guys do subscribe, you've seen him in other videos. He's the sweetest chihuahua. He is one of those that, he loves people. He loves attention. If you're new to the house, he will bark maybe for the first 5 minutes and then he's on your lap. For the entire, I want to say it was between a 6 to 8 week period that we had her in my house, he would growl with his whole hair sticking on end every single time that my mother would come into the room to speak to me. Every time she would come closer to me, just walk towards me, he would stand in front of me and growl and bark and wouldn't let her even touch him. So we found that super, super strange because, and they do say, I'm not one to believe in those type of things, but they do say that dogs feel energy. So obviously he felt something because he never took to her. But, Jesus saw me through. We had her house on the market by a freak of nature thing, which the realtor actually said. She said, "Oh, I never had this happen." Her house, even though the houses were selling just like this, when we first put it up, she said, "Oh, this is not gonna last 1 or 2 weeks." Well, something happened. There was a glitch where the house was not available on the MLS, only if you were specifically looking up her address. So there was no shows to the house, so the house never sold. I call it God, because if it had sold, I don't even know. She would have still been with me. I don't know. But we ended up taking her back to her home. And of course, I set up, even though she didn't want me to, and she cursed me for it, I set her up with the Meals on Wheels. I set her up with all the things that she needed. But I wasn't going to have that type of, person in my house. She was already lying on my husband, telling my daughter things that, my husband had said to her, making him seem like a bad person and lying. And I just couldn't have that in my house, So I pray for her and I forgive her. I do. I don't wish bad upon her. I pray for her every night. But I chose not to have her in my life. And, for me, I've come to the conclusion that you can honor and obey your parents, but do it from afar. God doesn't want me to just keep in an abusive relationship all my life if nothing, if somebody wishes me harm. I know that there's no love there, obviously. She did give birth to me, and I thank her for that. I thank her for, not getting rid of me, anything. I'm thankful for that. And she's being cared for now. She is in a nursing type facility where I know, she's getting care. But yeah, that's my story. And it's a hurtful to just to have never had that mother figure. I wish I would have had a mother figure. I see other, just like me and my daughter, we have that relationship where she can come to me and I can console her or talk to her or any of those things. And I just never had that. But I'm sure that it would have been nice. But God is our Heavenly Father, and He gives us what we need. And, my father, he did love me. He couldn't give me as much guidance because he was, had his own demons, so to speak, and addictions and things like that. But at least he did show me and my children a lot of love. Where my birth mother, she really didn't. But on times of your birthday, you think about it. You think like, well, does she even think about me? What did I do in my life that, you feel like something's wrong with you? But if you're in the same boat, a lot of times it is not you. I mean, a mother is supposed to love her children unconditionally anyway. So really, there's nothing that a child could do to make a real mother that has love for you, to actually stop loving their child. So that's just my little testimony. I may have other things that I may share in the future because, the stories can go on and on. But just in a nutshell, if anybody else is, suffering, contemplating in their mind, because it's not an easy thing. And for people are quick to judge, well, why would you ever stop talking to your parent? People are so quick to judge, but they should reverse it and ask the parent, what did your child do to where she doesn't speak to you? And side note, her neighbor, which is a real nice lady that had been her neighbor now for probably 30 years. I only know her through, seeing her when I would visit and things like that. And then we talked a little more when I went over there to move her in and all that. She understands. She doesn't want to get involved in the business or anything, but she basically told me, I get it. And she's a Christian lady. And she's like, I get it. Because she, even though my mother's very good at putting, fake fronts out there for other people, that, her neighbor saw through it. The other neighbor on the other side was talking to my husband when we were first getting ready to take her. And he said, wow, do you think that that's going to work? And these are people that are getting her good side. And they just all kind of, they saw through her exactly how she is. So you could only imagine how she was behind closed doors. But, the decision is, don't let people make you feel guilty. You know in your heart what you did. I know in my heart what I did, what I tried to do. And, and God knows. God knows your heart. God knows your intentions. And just keep praying, because I do believe that the Lord can change people. And I do pray. I pray that the Lord will change her before, it is her time, so that, maybe I will see her again. I pray. I want to go to heaven. I try to live my life that way. Maybe there'll be some reconciliation there. But anyway, guys, feel free to comment if you have any input or anything like that. And I'll see you in the next video. God bless. Bye.